Here we are. Pull up my Briggs Auction item.
Oh, you have one? It's an interesting auction this time. It's not like right down my alley, but like when you see like hats from the 1940s with like the hat box is pretty dope, you know?
There's always something that like even when it's the discovery auction, you know it's going to be like a lot of mid-century furniture, and I'm like gonna enjoy it all, but trying to think of like what's going to be the thing that I can talk about.
Yeah.
There's always something that just pops up. I'm like, oh, okay, that's easy.
Do they do any in-person auctions?
No. Not as far as I know. Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see CJ holding a paddle.
Oh, yes.
25,000.
Maybe they'll do one for us. Do an online auction.
They auction us off.
Yes.
They auction the podcast off. CJ, you have to win. You have to win the auction of us. Otherwise, someone else gets to be the producer.
Like the IP of this podcast, or like our
not our bodies, like
not our bodies,
like for sex stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
Another sponsor thing. Mike Clem, the CEO of Surfside, wants you to know that he also plays bingo.
On Thanksgiving.
Not on Thanksgiving, but does like bingo. Like,
I got nothing against bingo.
Okay.
This is not. This fight is not between me and bingo.
It sounds like it might be.
I've been relatively silent on this conversation in the backgrounds, but I'm a fellow hater of that saying. And it's exactly what Mike says about it's not the idea of bingo being like a silly game to play. It's like the expectation that they need to laugh after what's being said, as if like, oh, I didn't expect that to be pulled out of your hat of tricks. Like,
well, that's a worse one.
You have a bingo card stashed from whatever instance that you're talking about. It's incredibly
it's just
frustrating.
A colloquialism. It's not meant to be literal.
Yeah, it's like
it doesn't make any
Parks
sense.
And Rec humor of like, oh, like
Whoa.
gonna like got you there.
You might have picked the wrong fight there.
Easy.
With CJ.
There's all right. So Weber texted Michael Weber, who's obviously Spike Lee of the Rights Ricky Sanchez, has screamed at Adam Silver in an arena before. He agrees. He's been venting on and off about bingo card for a year, he said. And he articulated it pretty well via text to me yesterday. He said, when people say I didn't have that on my bingo card, they mean, what a random thing that I couldn't have predicted. But nobody predicts their bingo card. You're handed a card with numbers or letters, and it's not like you sit around and guess what might be on your bingo card before you get it and then play bingo with it.
I don't know.
True.
And even when someone says 066 or whatever, no one goes, I don't have that on my bingo card.
Well, that's what they think.
I mean, but it's not even a saying in bingo.
Well,
you just go like, I don't have it. Which again, nothing against bingo.
Well, it
absolutely. My issues with the bingo community are none.
The first
I have a lot of love for the bingo community.
You might have to include this, CJ. What's that?
The first person to use that in a sentence probably got a few chuckles, and it was probably good in that moment.
Right.
That had to have been like over 15 years ago, and it's
15.
15. 75.
CJ, what do you? Yeah.
That's saying in the context that it's used now, like bringing back
more than 15 years ago.
I think like 75 years old.
Yeah. It's pretty old.
Fair.
Yeah.
The first time I maybe have heard it, it's overdone now.
You're like 8, you know?
Sure.
There's a million of those kinds of phrases that are all like incredibly hacky and should be retired. And it's nothing against the bingo community.
Well, then maybe Ring a Bell should be retired too.
But that's not. It's
doesn't make any sense either.
It sure does. When you ring like that's the sense of like it's not an actual bell. It's like the vague recollection of something is like a bell ringing in the background. I'm like, oh yeah, it is. I can hear that. That's an expression. I have nothing against expressions. The caller that was like, so you like this expression but not that expression?
Yeah.
That's how we descend into fascism. When we can't assess the validity of one expression is good and kind of that's charming, and one is just past its prime and ready to go to bed forever.
All right, let's start the show. You got to keep that on the pod. I'm sorry. Yeah, CJ. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Sign up for Draftkings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. And brought to you by Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process, briggsauction.com. Bodybio, get 20% off any order at bodybio.com with code Norman. That is the code Norman at bodybio.com. And Kinetic Skateboarding, get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers once again look like a functional basketball team and win a game against Orlando. It's unbelievable. They're winning games almost every other game this time. Looks like Joel Embiid might play on Sunday. Who knows? Nick Nurse's quote about it doesn't seem too confident. We do have a couple final calls on the never-ending bingo debate. And people notice Mike's doppelganger. Also, Jake Fischer will join us. Jake Fischer has a new job. He is with Marc Stein on Marc Stein's Substack. So we'll talk to Jake as well. New episode of the Draft Council is out this week with their mock draft for 2025 2.0. That is wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Draft Council. Did mention Kinetic Skateboarding. Dude, as we are heading to the holidays, they have many, many, many sales. So not only can you use code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order, but the Snow Madness sale going on right now. I was looking through it. Now, I'm not a snowboarder, but if I were, what I would see was like hundreds of dollars off of snowboards. I saw $200 off this one, $300 off that one. Big discounts on snowboard gear. So that is like the jackets and the pants and the boots and all that kind of shit. And so not only are they your skateboard headquarters, not only are you going to get sneakers you're not going to find anywhere else, but all the snowboard gear you need. What I would do is go to kineticskateboarding.com, sign up for the newsletter so you get these special sales, follow them on social as well, and use code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order. Two big shout outs right here that we got emails about that I thought were particularly important. So this one came from Yishi. Yishi wanted a shout out to his boy Rishi, who gets married to, I want to get this name right, Alekia on December 15th. So what Yishi says is that Rishi was originally the person who introduced him to the Ricky. We helped him get through a lot of early morning commutes into med school. As a direct result, he started his residency program in general surgery in Missouri early this year. He says he's one of my best friends since freshman year in high school. I couldn't be more proud of everything he's accomplished. So wanted to give a big shout out to Rishi, who gets married on December 15th to Alekia. Good luck. Being married is cool. You'll have a great time. Be nice to your wife. And then I thought this was interesting. Mike, do you remember the pod where we got the email from Nathan where he said his kids wouldn't even watch the Ricky with him anymore?
Yeah, good kids.
Yeah. So we got another email. He says, 2 weeks ago, I wrote in reporting that my kids won't watch the Sixers with me because they're too depressing. I have an update. My sixth grader's math teacher turns out to be a Sixers fan and a Ricky listener.
Unreal.
This may seem unexceptional, except we live just outside New York City, and she's literally the only non-family Ricky fan my son has ever met. She has encouraged him to remain true to the team, and as such, he has resumed joining me and watching the games. Wow. As a happy father, I'd be grateful if you would give Miss Stark, a math teacher and a Sixers fan, a shout out on the podcast.
Hell yeah, Miss Stark.
Miss Stark, we love it. So
shout out to teachers.
Yeah, that is awesome. And he lives near me. He lives in I won't give the town, but lives near me. So I think it's possible I may have passed Miss Stark in like a fucking grocery store or something.
Unreal.
Yeah. So shout out to Miss Stark. All right. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Right Streaky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is functional, along with his favorite basketball team. That is Mike Levin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Should have won, what is it?
4 in a row.
6 in a row, I think. 5 in a row.
4.
Because the overtime game against Houston.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Well, I thought, okay, I was giving them the Orlando game from the other night, but you want to give them the Houston game as well.
I'm giving them both.
Okay.
Seeming to look like a regular basketball team again.
Yes, and it gets you to the place. Now, unfortunately, they're in such a massive hole that it's hard to feel good about this. Mm-hmm. But it gets to the place where you're like, oh, that's where the team should have been without Embiid. Mm-hmm. A 500-ish, plus or minus whatever team, mm-hmm. we would have been able to keep our head above water if everything had started off the way that you planned. If PG doesn't get hurt, if Embiid is actually there for the first, part of the season, you're starting to see it, and you're starting to see, other players thrive too. KJ Martin's doing great, but it is quite obvious that when Paul George is there, regardless of Maxey not even playing well, they're a capable basketball team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great to see.
Yeah.
It's just really good to see. And especially considering the Sixers give up, I don't know, let's say an average of 2.5 points every single game because of the Sixers never winning a challenge.
It's unbelievable.
And always losing the other team's challenge.
That's what I was going to say. Even when the other team doesn't win the challenge, they somehow win the challenge anyway. And even when we win a challenge, we lose the challenge,
It's remarkable.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it.
In my leagues, if you have the wrong, I don't wear an undershirt to play in, but if you wear an undershirt it has to be the right color, and they're very sticklers about that. And if you don't have one, or if you don't have a jersey number on your front, you get dinged like 2 points or something like that. And that's basically what the Sixers are doing every game of the challenge. They're just like, oh, here you go, have extra points because we're going to challenge the wrong thing, and even if we're right, we're going to be wrong. And even if you're wrong, you're going to be right.
Right. I've never seen anything like it.
It's unbelievable.
It's kind of a good bit now. I almost don't want it to turn around. Yeah. I like laughing about it every time it happens.
Yeah. It's funny to see them in disbelief every time.
Yes.
And nothing to change.
Yeah.
Paul George is great.
Paul George. Yeah.
Paul George is great.
He was great. By the way, as playmaker guy, much better than I figured he would be.
Great to see. I mean, look, there were some dumb passes. There's some,
That's what he has. He's got some Dannies in there.
The brain lapses for some time. Yes, absolutely. But I mean, he's just he shoots it so high. He can get it off at any time. His touch is so soft. Everyone on the court, it's unbelievable. I long for that level of touch. Just that ball just wants to go in. It curls in so nicely. He had a really tough finish going through contact, going left, if you remember, on the baseline.
Yeah.
That was a tough shot. He missed a wide open dunk, but obviously, what do I do, Spike?
At least he tried.
I love it.
Yeah.
We support dunks. The stigmatizing missed dunks will not happen here. We support it.
How did you feel about Ja Morant saying he's not going to dunk anymore? Did you see that? He said he's not going to dunk. He doesn't want to get hurt and so on and so forth.
It's upsetting. But dunking is only for the strong, like me. Like me, who has never dunked. I understand him being weaker as he gets older, but
By the way,
I'm staying true to myself.
Also, Paul George, the sort of step back, step side three in third quarter, whenever it was.
With the shot clock expiring.
Yeah, it was just oh, you're the one. You can do that.
You can do that,
and it's not just a Hail Mary or whatever. It's you can actually make that shot.
And just so easy. It looks so easy for him. Maxey's step backs look like he's having to
Yes.
He's risking his, several tendons just by getting to it, and it feels so hard for him to get to. And Paul's just shot clock's running down. I guess I'll take a little bit here.
Yeah.
You can't block it.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do to affect this shot. It's very impressive, and I want to call out. I love using shooters to set screens. And there was one time when McCain and Maxey, we talked about it a little bit last time, but PG also, he screened open KJ for a dunk on the first play of the I think it was the fourth quarter. he screened open KJ because both guys were worried about him. KJ cuts off the screen, gets a wide open dunk, drawn up play. It was a good inbounds play from Nick Nurse. It was great. It was awesome. I love using movement on offense to get guys open, and I love when guys cut hard, and I love when guys dunk. And PG was instrumental, 9 assists, and just like making the offense flow. They started going to him pretty early of just like, all right, get your touches in there, get your shots up, start to get hot. But it was just like he played a very complete game, both sides of the floor once again.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was awesome. It will be a shame because it's more likely than not this ends up as a lost season on some level. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I'm just saying it's more likely than not. It will be a shame.
They have 6 wins, Spike. What are you talking about?
No,
we got 6.
They've played 21 games though.
Yeah. If you're looking at the downside.
Yeah. I just like, you can start to see everything now. And I wonder if there's, it all depend on if Embiid is able to come back and play a lot of games, but you're starting to see like, oh, Yabusele pops, like he's like a real guy. Oh, Paul George is good. He's basically exactly what we expected. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're able to win without Maxey playing well at all, really. Oh, we have this bonus guy in Jared McCain. Like, you're just starting to look around and everything. Oubre's had probably 5 straight good games now. Mm-hmm. Is KJ Martin underpaid? We give this guy a balloon payment. He's awesome. I want him on the court at all times. So you're starting to see it all sort of come together, and it's frustrating that it is not, all there sooner. But before we talk about another, good thing in
I got KJ notes.
Well, can we talk about Maxey first?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we can't ignore like the bad thing again.
Sure.
I think he had another bad from 3 game. Was he 1 for 7 again?
1 for 7, yeah.
Yeah. So everything,
and he hit his first one, I believe. So then he went over 7.
Yeah, there was a spot up 3 early in the game, in the first couple minutes of the game that he hit. Everything when you're watching him, and you mentioned it with when he's shooting threes, but like everything seems harder for him than I remember it looking, whether it's getting to the rim, whether it's finishing, whether it's threes. And some of that is Embiid not being there for sure. He was always, when you look at his stats last year, he was much better with Embiid on the floor than off, like most players are, but he was better than he is here. And he just seems so out of sync with whatever the rest of the team is doing and like pressing, that it's almost distracting to watch sometimes. Like I almost wish I think he'll be okay. That would be my guess. Cause I can't, he's not just going to get worse. Right. Like, so, but when I'm watching it, he's a tough watch right now, I think.
Yeah. He's going through a tough stretch. You can tell he's in his head of like, what's the right shot, of how aggressive he should be, of how much he should pass versus create. I think like he's probably hasn't struggled from 3 like this in many years. Last night, 5 of 17 and only 2 assists. Like, he just wasn't impacting the game in a positive way enough that you expect from a guy like Tyrese. But I really still am not worried at all. This is a slump. Like, I've never been less worried about like a player going through a slump. Like, he is. Does he have flaws in his game? Like, of course.
Yeah, right.
Of course.
Right.
He's an imperfect player. I would love to see him. There was one time where he was struggling, especially early in the third. He was struggling a lot. And then he had one play where he got to his mid-range and a fadeaway that kind of like McCain has started to get to in the paint. And I just would love more when it's just so north-south with Maxey. Either he's like a blur to the rim or it's a step back. And he's not so fast at diagnosing the help and finding the open guy. I would just love. He's got to get better at either diagnosing that when the big comes over and doesn't just have to go up like, my only hope is scoring over this shot blocker, and he's not. He can dunk, but he's not like dunking over guys. He's not Anthony Edwards. Or like being a little bit more east-west, a little bit more like getting into some Chris Paul stuff, like getting into some, like, oh, I can still hit a mid range. The stuff that frustrates me is like when he's worked so hard to get to the middle, and then he goes like, I don't really have a shot here, and then he just like starts the offense back up and has to do like another series of high intensity dribble drive moves,
right,
to like go directly at the rim. And I would love to have that middle, that like side to side stuff, that snaking pick and rolls, east west. I just think is how he's going to become more unpredictable and also prolong his career, because he's not always going to be this fast and this fearless as a driver. So it's got to be one of them. It's got to be like the passing's got to improve, which is tough, or he's got to like just have a better sense of, oh, here are all the mid-range shots that I have. And even his floater is not like as automatic as it has been in the past. And so I feel bad for him. He's going through a tough stretch, but I do think ultimately this kind of stuff is good for him. Like he's such a hard worker. I'm just not concerned.
Figure out what's going on and solve it.
Yeah.
The rights Ricky, I know there's not an ad thing being held up down there, but it is time to talk about Briggs Auction, the official auction of the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast. Briggs Auction, how many generations? And I don't have it in front of me. How many generations Briggs Auction been there? Family owned and operated. I think it's 4 in Delco.
More generations than I got.
Yep. My thing about Briggs Auction is if I had endless space and endless money, I would never stop getting stuff in Briggs Auction. I would keep building wings onto my house to house the more stuff I get. Briggs Auction always has stuff you did not know that you needed until you saw it. Now, if you need a couch or something, you need a chair, it's worth checking in regularly because there's so much furniture in the auctions. There's so many clothing, so many collectibles, so much art. But the stuff that I find is the stuff that I didn't even know that I wanted. Download the app at Google Play or the App Store, or just go to briggsauction.com. They have auctions almost every week. And now it is time for the CJ Briggs Auction item of the week.
Yeah, so I have shown a watch or two, I think, in this segment before.
Have you?
I'm not a watch guy, and I'll say that every time I show a watch.
Ooh, an Omega.
I saw this and thought, okay, cool, old watch. What really sold me is that this is a gentleman's retirement gift, I assume. Probably a part of his pension. It says Robert Thompson, New York Telephone, 1970, 35 years.
Oh, that's pretty fucking cool, man.
What a gentleman.
So Mr. Thompson served his country at the New York Telephone Company, which Verizon now owns. That's what I was looking up on the other screen, why I didn't have the ad postcard in the camera. But Verizon now owns this company, which is sad, but it's really cool that at one point we had pension systems to give out retirement gifts like this and a nice, cool watch.
And you can take it from him.
I can take it right from him.
Yeah.
$200 right now, but it'll probably be more than that.
I'm sure it will be. That is
I like a story. I like a story that comes with it.
Yeah. And I mentioned to CJ in the filter in, they have like all these hats from the 40s and 50s in the auction that's up now. The auction that's up now is until Friday, it's Friday the 13th next week. Until I'm acting like, ooh, it's spooky. Anyway, I think it goes to the 14th, 13th or 14th. But go to briggsauction.com. Everything is organized by category, right? Clothing and vehicles and electronics and blah, blah, blah. A lot of our lots start at $1. There's almost 1,000 and every single one of the auctions. So again, briggsauction.com, or download the Briggs Auction app in Google Play or the App Store. All right, KJ Martin.
KJ Martin, man.
What a revelation.
He's just good.
Yeah. He's making corner threes, man. He becomes a real player.
If he becomes like even on the road to PJ Tucker from the corner. Which is just like, I just have to think it's possible. I just like have to think PJ's not like an excellent, he's obviously made himself into a good corner three shooter, but like you can do it. Like it's just doable. You're an NBA player. You got a ton of athleticism and physicality. If they're not going to guard you out there, that like little pick and pop into the corner, it's just like, take your time, get it up. That's got to be your shot. He was awesome. He was unbelievable. He turns the corner, he gets downhill, goes left. Great touch around the rim. Had a really nice reverse dunk to end the first.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
Dude, they seem unstoppable when he hits threes.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
You know, like he's hitting threes. I don't ever think we're going to lose.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I would like more volume. 32 minutes, two attempts, one for two. I would like more, but okay. Really, I mean, I just love the cutting. I love the movement.
Yeah.
Paul George is posting on the opposite wing. KJ cuts down the baseline or cuts down the lane, and PG finds him immediately for a bucket at the rim. It's like what a nice thing. Like, think about Embiid doing that.
Yeah.
What a nice thing. It's like getting easy baskets off of simply like a good player having the ball and another good player cutting off of it. Like, that's easy stuff. Yeah, he runs the floor hard. He caught a 60-foot lob from Paul George.
What a pass from Paul George. How about that?
Really nice pass from PG. A huge offensive rebound on a play that he then passed in midair to a cutting McCain. Also indicative of good movement, of good things happen when you're cutting at the rim. Had a nice tip dunk off a good McCain drive. Also want to shout out Kelly Oubre. Also had a tip dunk, which I like.
Yep.
I love a tip dunk. And yeah, Yabusele also operating when Yabu operates on a small, they send help, which is so nice that a minimum guy draws help in a post up situation. KJ cuts baseline. He spins away from help and finishes with touch. Like, he's just good, man. He has really nice touch around the rim. He cuts hard. He's physical. He's wide. Plays hard defensively. Can elevate for
Great
dunks
athlete.
and rebounds. And it is starting to make you consider maybe he's not the guy that gets moved.
Yeah, I think Sixers Adam wrote that about a week or two ago. I mean, look, it all depends on who they trade for, and because the other options, there's really two other options from a salary standpoint. You're talking about Caleb Martin or Kelly Oubre.
Yeah.
You think it would more likely be Oubre just because they have Caleb Martin for 3 more years, whereas Oubre can opt out after this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been, from the very beginning, I've been sort of iffy on the Caleb Martin experience so far, though if you made me bet on who is more helpful over the long run, it's probably Martin over Oubre. That would be my guess, that I'd rather hold on to Martin.
Sorry, there are 2 players named Martin.
Oh, right. Wait. Oh, Caleb Martin. Oh, I'm sorry. I would bet that Caleb Martin is more functional than Oubre is, even though I've been skeptical of the Caleb Martin experience since I started watching him play for the Sixers.
Yeah. Probably has more fans league wide. The shot is bad right now. He went out last night. Caleb did with an ankle thing. They said he could have played.
Yeah.
But they wanted to rest it. Didn't want to risk it. That's fine. It depends on what the trade is for. Some teams will value the cap space that comes with acquiring an expiring contract. Yeah. Or some teams will go like, oh, this is Caleb Martin on a great deal. We have him and he is exactly what we need, and we can trade this other guy in some way, whatever. So it'll depend on what the return is. But obviously Caleb has not been great. Some poor decision making of trying to do too much, but like really for me the big thing is like the shot and the decision making with the shot. I do think he's a very helpful presence. I do think he's probably the most versatile defender on the team, as far as like who you can throw him on and play hard and trust that he's going to do the right thing defensively. I think that's important. But yeah, he's got to be able to be there's more regular hitting shots. But KJ, I mean, good for KJ making it an issue. And
at the very, very, very least, making his value more than a contract number, like I think there was always at least neutral value on KJ Martin, but it seems like we're getting to a world where it looks like there might be positive value on KJ Martin as a player and not just contract filler.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Still young, still really young, still getting better. Paul George said that in an interview, he's still young as shit. And it's like, yeah, he's lively legs and a thick frame. I could do something with that.
Wow, what a quote that is right there. Speaking of a thick frame, 2 things on Yabusele.
Okay.
First of all, he is thicker than we have given credit for.
Yeah. You can't overstate it. It's impossible to overstate.
It almost looks like the front of him balances out the back of him, and that's why he doesn't tip over. Like, the ass is so big, but the front of him is also bigger than you think it is. Yeah. So it's just sort of like this. It looks like an optical illusion.
You think he should tip over?
yeah, if you just saw the top of him, you'd be like, oh, he's going to tip over. But like then you see the bottom of him and you're like, oh, that's why he doesn't tip over.
I mean,
it's really impressive. He's been great, but there was one specific play that I thought was awesome. And it's not something that you expect out of a guy who's on just him, minimum contract, who, by the way, was out of the league because he couldn't shoot, is Paul George finds him open-ish. And Paul George is like, has better vision than he is a passer. I think that's what I would say. I think he gets into trouble when he sees passes that he's actually not capable of making. But he throws a pass to Yabusele on the wing, and it wasn't a great pass. Like Yabusele had to reach to the side to grab it, but reset so quickly and got the three-point shot off. He's been so much better as a shooter and so much quicker and so much more functional than I expected him to be. I wanted him to be passable, but it seems like he's just like sort of figured something out, and he has a calmness in the way that he plays, where I think playing in Europe probably helped. But the way that he caught that pass in the wrong spot and still got it up there quick enough to shoot the three, I thought was amazing.
Yeah, I think he knows that he came in kind of tentative to be like, I'm just going to do what I can do. I'm going to move the ball. I'm going to play whatever. And then the team started losing games, and he kept playing well. And it's like, I actually can hang here. And his confidence in his abilities is getting, is helping him like contribute more. I wonder what it's going to look like when everybody's healthy and how much he gets shots off. I do think that he's certainly an option for that last starting spot.
I would definitely have him in there.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Depending on matchup, like I wouldn't mind Oubre for defense. Like having Paul George as the only like plus wing defender in your starting lineup, I think could be problematic. I am penciling Maxey in or McCain in as in there. So you might want to prioritize defense a little bit, especially if Yabu ends up being like kind of their backup center, and sometimes maybe you wouldn't want to play him starting with the four. Whatever. Options. Good to have options. It's nice to have Drummond back, especially if Bono was out for the game. It was good to have Drummond just be kind of normal. 5 offensive rebounds I appreciated. He has such good hands on defense. I've been banging this drum for kind of a while. He has really quick hands. He can get his mitts on things and hold on to them. And it is baffling that he has such good hands on defense and such bad hands on offense.
Awful. But you don't have to catch it on defense. You just have to slap it, like
it's really wild.
I don't want them to pass it to him ever. No. Yeah, especially in traffic, in the lane, which is the only place where I want him to have the ball.
Right.
He's definitely going to drop it.
Yeah.
Don't give it to him in traffic. Yeah.
Also, like, wouldn't mind you just grabbing lobs with 2 hands. Put it down. He tries to do a one-hand lob every time, and when it works, it's very cool. I like it. I appreciate it, but I also wouldn't mind a second hand there. Yeah, it's so weird. He's such an odd player to be such. He is genuinely like gets his like Jokic-esque as far as getting his hands onto like passes you don't think he would get to on defense. That's what Jokic's specialty is that like he is quicker and than you expect and longer than you expect, and he can deflect stuff. And if you're dribbling near him, he can slap it away. But Drummond also, like, he's not a good rim protector.
No.
He's not. Like, I feel like I'm having visions of Mo Wagner just like sort of like pivoting away from him for an easy layup like over and over again.
Position-wise, he's not good at it. Yeah. Instinctually, he's not good at it. He's a very strange athlete in that I wouldn't call him unathletic, but he's also not athletic, right. Because he's not he doesn't have much of a vertical leap. I guess he's strong, but he doesn't muscle people. Very, very. If he can't be a good rim protector, he can't be a good defender.
It's very weird. I feel better about, and this is such an odd thing, and not what the book is. I feel better when he's like, okay, they're isoing Drummond with like a wing at the top of the key. I feel better about his prospects playing good defense there than when like he's getting posted up on or he's having to drop in a pick and roll or something. He's been great defending in space.
Better than
gets
you
his
would
hands
think,
in there.
For sure, yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Not a good Jared McCain game. Not a bad one, but just kind of sort of a didn't make a huge impact, I would say.
Well, and he came in and he was like the first his first run in there, you're like, get this guy the fuck out of here. I mean, he turned the ball over, I think 3 times almost right away.
Yeah, there's a bit of a sense of like, he also is getting much more confident in himself, and he came in confident of like what he can do at this level. And he's like, oh, I can break guys down off the dribble. So like the quick, CJ, I see it. The quick, I have to call out what I see. I can't.
I was going to say, I can't just play it's such a quiet, easy way to let you know.
I can't do it. I won't do it. I'm going to call it out. I acknowledge, CJ, I see you. I hear you. I respect you. And the listeners must know. But just finish with McCain. The driving right, decelerating. This is on KCP. Drove right, decelerated, switched hands, and finished with a lefty floater high. That's unbelievable. That is an unbelievable play.
Skill-wise, he is sick. He's a great player, and he is pretty advanced for his age in terms of all of those things. I would say.
But he's got to like have a sense of like, okay, have a better feel for when guys are collapsing onto him. Turn it over. 4 turnovers last night. It was a lot of mental stuff. And he's a good rebounder at his size. I really like. He comes away with like 1 or 2 like big rebounds every game that you're like, good for him for getting that ball. But again, on the other end, Suggs kept calling out for switches on him.
Yeah.
And I thought he held up pretty okay, but the problem with when you have a mismatch or someone that you don't want, the defense doesn't want to be going ISO on, then everybody else is having to pinch in. And even if McCain holds up pretty well, which I thought he did, then other guys are out of position because they're thinking that they need that kind of help. And so a mismatch is a mismatch, even if the guy doesn't hold up. And so until McCain becomes a better defender more consistently, then they don't have to help. Then they're going to keep getting good looks out of that. Let's do the ad. I think. CJ, what do you think?
That's not how we say it, though. The rights to Ricky Sanchez. You have so much to learn, Mike. Maybe after another 11 years.
I don't know.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Mike, you may have heard the Emirates NBA Cup is here.
Yeah.
You can bet on it at DraftKings Sportsbook. That's the only thing the Emirates NBA Cup is good for, is betting on it, because it doesn't mean anything, and we would never dream of anything else. The Knicks are the current favorite. They're plus 310 to win the Emirates NBA Cup. I kind of like the Magic at plus 1,600, though. I'm going to be honest with you. And the Rockets at plus 550.
Magic. I love Franz, man. He's such a good player.
He is a really good player. And if he becomes a better 3-point shooter, he'll be a fucking murderer, I think, actually.
And I think once Paolo's back, I really believe in Franz. It's just like a multi-time all-star for a long time.
Yeah, I don't like Banchero, though. Seems like a ball hog, losing player. I'm not a big fan.
They're both so big and physical.
Well, as a team, they're big. Even their small guys are pretty big, Mike, we're probably not going to have a chance to do it later. So the line at DraftKings Sportsbook for the Eagles game, who have won 8 in a fucking row, man.
Unreal, man. Unbelievable.
They're second favorite to win the Super Bowl at DraftKings Sportsbook. They're 13.5 points favorites over the Panthers. Mm-hmm. By the way, I saw this morning somebody in Kentucky put a $2.5 million bet on the Eagles, minus 12.
Makes me nervous.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Nervous.
What's your pick?
Who's the Houston guy? Mattress Mac, whatever.
Yes.
That makes the bets.
That's on his own team.
Don't be that guy. I think that guy's gonna. He bet the Eagles money line or Eagles spread?
I thought he bet the Eagles spread.
Whew, dumbass.
Yeah.
I think Eagles cruise all game and inexplicably give up a late touchdown, and that guy loses $3 million.
Yeah. Good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah. Well, remember, you can bet all this stuff at DraftKings Sportsbook. And if it's your first time for you, bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. But you got to use our code. So when you score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, every point counts. Download the app. Use code RTRS. Do it for us. Do it for the children. That's code RTRS. New customers get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5 only at DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Got to be 21. See show notes for details. This was Nick Nurse's quote about Joel Embiid at the end after the game. He's been on the court the last few days. He's doing okay. His knee swelling is down. Feeling a little better. Maybe he'll get through tonight and hope there's a chance he can play in the next game.
Great.
Sounds awesome.
I believe it. Just get him back. Let's go. They're three of their last four. Should have been 5 in a row. 6-15.
Would love
veering
to
towards respectability.
Stretch. Would love to have a normal stretch. I actually have a question about that for you, but before we get to that, we have to address the elephant in the room. Now, it's something that you have to mention when you get multiple Ricky emails, voicemails, and tweets about a certain subject. And I want to preface this by saying we are united. We don't always agree on everything here at the Ricky, but we're united in saying that we do not think murder is good. We think it is bad. It's a bad thing. We do not think that you should murder anyone, literally. You should not shoot anyone. You should not murder anyone in any way.
Who's the teacher that we that listens to us now?
Miss Stark.
Miss Stark can do this part of the podcast.
Yeah, I want to be clear that we are not making light of murder. Bad. However, it has to be addressed that when the police released the image of the New York United Healthcare shooter when he was at a youth hostel flirting with the front desk girl, that's why he pulled his mask down. The guy looks just like Mike. Now, when we were first sent this,
is this the right look? Is this the right position?
Yeah. Sorry, we need your head up a little more. There it is. Dude, it looks so much like you that when the first
he's got a better nose. It's a pretty perfect nose he's got.
It is a good nose he has. When it first came to us. Yeah, you want to do that with Mike, not with me, right? Yeah, that doesn't work either. Yep. When it was first sent to us in email.
Wait, let me do the hoodie.
I'm
wearing a suspiciously similar hoodie right now.
Yeah.
To be clear, I've been in Los Angeles.
To be clear, when this was first sent to me, it was sent via email. I thought it was photoshopped to look like Mike. Like that's how much it looks like Mike.
Well, I've been flattered by that because people are saying he's hot. So I'm happy to hear that.
That's good.
I needed the boost.
Right. But you were not in New York. Do you have
No, I wasn't in New York. I haven't been in New York in 6 months.
Okay.
I've been here not doing any murdering.
I
will let you know. Look, I promise to let the podcast listeners know if I start doing murdering. I will talk about it on the podcast.
Okay. Allegedly. You were allegedly in Los Angeles, as Kay says. We got a voicemail from Jack in New Jersey just begging you to turn yourself in. All right. So, unbelievable. So, I want to use this voicemail to introduce this question I've been having because I almost wrote about it in the newsletter. I think I'm going to write about it this week. I thought of it during the last pod, but it is a bigger question. And I think this gentleman illuminated my thoughts pretty well to 833 Lickface.
Spike, Mike, CJ, Daryl, Norman, first time, long time. I need a ruling to know how to feel. We're a quarter into the season, and I know I'm not asking us to tank, but I want to know, has my brain been altered from the last 10 years, 11 years? Like, I want us to win, obviously, more than anything, but I'm not, like, actively rooting for us to win, but I'm also not disappointed when we lose. I know we're not, most likely tanking for Cooper Flag or anything. I'm realistic. But also, what's the play-in do for us? It doesn't do anything for me. The last 10 years has taught me we're either all in or all out, and I've just become very apathetic, and I don't want to be with 75% of the season left to go. I just don't know how to mentally hurdle these next 5-6 months left of the season. Help me out here. Am my brain worked?
So I thought of this. I think of this every time we talk about one of these games when the Embiid thing is just like floating out in the ether, that the games seem almost like a postscript to like whatever's happening. Like they're also happening, but there's also this giant sort of cloud of dread over all of it that, hey, he's never going to be right again. What are we doing here? And I think there needs to be like this, we need to almost forget about that just to talk about the game and talk about the other players while acknowledging it's a reality. But also I don't want to spend every podcast saying, why did they sign him to the extension? Is he ever going to come back? I guess I don't know how to separate it all the time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I think we're just in the bad period of, this is the rare bad period of, they have the worst record that they've had in any Embiid era by a lot.
Yep.
And also Embiid is not only, it's not like Embiid is like, I'm recovering from a meniscus thing or something. It's like, it is the unknowing feeling of, is this forever? Is he going to look normal? Right. It's not like he just has to recover from this like 6-week injury or something like that. It's just like kind of vague. And the Sixers don't know either. They thought he was going to be ready by opening night. And so we're all sort of at the mercy of the knee. And so it is that combination of it. If the Sixers were playing 500 basketball, which they have been lately, but if they were playing it the whole time, then you could go like, all right, they're holding up fine. They just need to draw the big guy to get back. It was just like the tanking thoughts, what is the point of all this? Were so pervasive because of starting, 2-12 or whatever. But I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a fucking dumbass.
Like, do you just talk yourself into, look, as long as there's a chance he's going to come back, I'm going to operate as if there's a chance he's going to come back, and I'll just think about it that way.
He is going to come back.
Well, but come back.
He always has.
Come back. Not just play 2 games and then be out for another week. I guess what I'm saying is I understand thinking about it that way, but I also understand the people that get to the point where like, well, what am I doing here? Like,
yeah, well, that's always, I mean? You should always
be
thinking that.
Yeah.
That always, I'm not saying that we're making good decisions or being healthy here.
Right.
I'm saying we've spent enough time into this thing where it's not going to end like, oh, Joel's just like can only play 1 out of every 4 games. He's going to get there and it's going to be fine. And we're going to be tragically defeated in other circumstances, but not in these.
Okay.
Not in these ones. Okay.
Well, you're obviously just talking yourself into that.
Yeah. What's the problem?
Yeah, I think it's just become tough for me where I'll get very excited about how they play in one of these games when they play well. And we're talking about it. And it always just hits me during the podcast. We're talking about it. I'm like, and then at the end, we're like, yeah, they said maybe Joel Embiid will come back, but they have no idea if the swelling's going to go down. And we just sort of move on. And I guess the goal with doing the pod and consuming the Sixers is operating knowing that the worst could happen, the worst case scenario could happen, but operating it as if it's not a done deal that it will, because there's no sense in any of this otherwise. And when I think I was talking to somebody about that. Was it Clem? I was talking to somebody. I think it was Clement from Surfside. I was like, look, if he's not going to play anymore, and that gets decided at some point, then that'll be a new era of whatever gets decided, and we'll be able to talk about it then. But speculating on it now that he might not ever play again, or I just don't understand what the point is, because we can't do anything about it anyway. So whatever happens, we'll figure it out at that point. But at this point, I don't want to worry about what's going to happen at that point, if that makes any sense.
I just got to assume he's going to be the guy that he has been for the last 6 years, which is, not a perfect basketball player, not playing all the time, but like more than this.
You keeping the hoodie on is actually,
yeah. Well, I'm in character.
Yeah, it seems like you're leaning into.
Let's bring Jake in.
All right. Well, Jake in 1 second. Let's talk about Bodybio. Even though CJ's not holding up the thing, this is a timing thing for me. That way we can just fly with Jake. You can bring Jake in for Bodybio if you want. Bodybio.com. Bodybio. We love Bodybio. Mike has been an influencer for Bodybio, an official online influencer.
Do you think they take it away from me because I look like the guy
that shot the United guy? I hope not. I hope not. Mike, I don't want you to get canceled.
That'd be so good if I couldn't.
Yeah. Now, if I know you said you were in Los Angeles, it turns out you weren't in Los Angeles, you were in New York. Bodybio might make that decision at that point, but if your story holds up, I think you're fair.
I've been here, but
yeah.
I'll see if I can get some pictures of myself holding up a newspaper
from that day. If you took one. If you go to bodybio.com and you use code Norman, that is Norman. Now, you have to write it down because we're not going to write it down in the description. We don't put it on the website because we only want it for Ricky listeners. So code Norman, you get 20% off everything. Not first order, not second order, everything all the time, 20% off with code Norman at bodybio.com. We've mentioned E-Light before. Love E-Light, hydration solution, no sugars, no artificial colors, no anything, just electrolytes. We've mentioned butyrate. If you're going to take one gut supplement, sodium butyrate, Mike is a devotee, will help you with bloat, will help you be regular, all that stuff. And now their newest product, Fish Oil Plus. You've seen fish oil products advertised. You've seen it in the drugstore all over for the last 2 decades. But there's too much of it, which has meant worse product, bad farm fish, stuff that sits on the shelves forever, becomes oxidized, rancid, all that kind of stuff. You want the highest quality fish oil. And that's what Fish Oil Plus is. They use better products, wild herring caviar. They extract the nutrients from the wild herring caviar, gives you a better product. They also test everything they send out, every batch of everything rigorously. And if it doesn't match their quality, they don't send it out. So all the things that can happen to fish oil, heavy metals like mercury, you've heard mercury with fish oil before, oxidation, prolonged heat exposure does not happen. You're not going to get that with Fish Oil Plus. If you take a fish oil supplement, if a family member does, if a friend does, just swap it the fuck out. Swap it the fuck out. Your body's going to do better with Fish Oil Plus. Go to bodybio.com, use code Norman for 20% off. Norman, that is bodybio.com. We are joined by Jake Fischer, who once again is among the employed basketball writers with a new platform. Congratulations, Jake, who joined up with Marc Stein on Marc Stein's Substack. You've known Stein for a while, yeah?
I have known Stein for a while. We have to be very clear for tax purposes that I'm not an employee.
Not an employee.
Of the sideline.
Yeah. Okay. And the tax guys are listening to this. They're waiting for you to slip
tax
up.
Guys are listening. I mean, they're on the hunt for you.
Yeah. So it is interesting that they would be the guys looking for me. But.
Yes, the IRS is looking for the shooter.
If I wasn't watching the live stream on Twitter and came into Mike Sad Boy hoodie, I don't know what I would have thought was going on after an in-common Sixers victory last night. But
well, getting a little more common, so that's a good thing. Yeah. So you and Stein have been, so to subscribe, by the way, what is if you just look up Marc Stein or Jake on Substack, that's the easiest way. That's the easiest way to do it. Is your role going to continue as insider with Stein? Is that sort of what you're going to be doing for him?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you guys for allowing me to do this and bloviate to your listeners. I do greatly appreciate it. Secondly, it's markstein.substack.com. If you do Google myself or Mark, that's a way to find it probably as well. I'm sure that's how Google still works these days. I'm not in the SEO Google charts world that I used to be. But I'm going to be, the deal is twice a week. I'm definitely going to be writing. And we're I'm trying so far to do kind of some bloggy style with it that I wasn't necessarily doing before, because we're in this new independent space. And I think that's kind of like what Substack is supposed to be, right? Like, I think you guys are such a example of building a community is kind of, I think, the way to have a subset of like active, I don't know, committed users to what your product is. Obviously, you guys don't paywall this stuff, but I don't know. I'm trying to like bring people more along for the journey of the insider writing, reporting, traveling, getting drinks with people on the road kind of stuff. So that's been the stylistic approach. But in terms of the content, it's all going to be the same type of insidery storytelling stuff. Yeah.
So after all these years, you go back to Liberty Ballers.
Exactly.
You're a blog boy once again.
You had to rise to the top. You had to work for different places, be an official guy. Now you're back to being a blog boy.
I will say, I think this is the second time I've been on this show. And like, I'm a little nervous because this is the home roots. This is you guys like almost every episode. It's even funny too, like listening to watching the Bodybio. ad read, right? Like I listen to it when I'm at the gym. So seeing Spike talk about like extracting the fish oil was a
He
win.
really puts his body into it.
He
Yeah,
really
well,
does.
I care about our partners, you know. I think it's a good product. I do think people would be interested in the journey part of the insider thing, because I think what it's been whittled down to, unfortunately, and this is not a shot at Shams or Woj or anything, but like I think people just view it as this transactional. They get a text, they post it, race sort of thing. But I think as much as you can let people into like how the sausage is made a little bit and take them through, like, hey, when I say this is possible, what do I actually even mean by that? Or, when I say that this team is talking to this team, well, like what do we mean? Like, so I think the more that you can bring people in, I think people would be interested, and I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think it's that. I think it's really characterizing what's actually happening behind closed doors amongst the team side of things and the players and the agents and all that. But also, like, I get anonymous texts. Like, obviously we dabble in anonymous sourcing, but like literally people text me and they won't tell me who they are. And they're giving me tips. And like, sometimes they turn out to be right. Sometimes they're total dog shit. But even like pulling back the curtain on that type of, like, if I do get a random tip from something or someplace very unexpected and it turns out to be true, like I might try to share that like reporting process kind of thing. It's such a bizarre world. Like there's
Keith Pompey, we laughed at it, but like when Pompey was on that podcast a couple of weeks ago, when he said one of his best sources was the Colangelo burner, we all laughed saying like, how could you use that? But sometimes you hear stuff from people that
for sure,
that just want to talk, that aren't Brian Colangelo, but seem to know something, even if you don't know
I think it's always Brian Colangelo. You have to open the room.
Well, I wasn't expecting to go here, but Mike, do you remember? I mean, you probably don't, but do you remember what my very first piece of like actual NBA insider-ish reporting was? It was on libertyballers.com.
I don't. I'm sorry to say.
We reported that Thaddeus Young requested a trade.
I remember that. I do remember that.
Do you remember who the source was, Mike?
No.
It was Thad's wife who DM'd me on Twitter. I will reveal it now, 11 years later.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
And
that was the
news
first
has
source.
Been broken.
Wow, that's pretty. Yeah. And she said you knew it was her when she gave you the news.
So I used to like sit. I mean, I'm very lucky. I grew up basically going to almost every Sixers home game because my dad had season tickets, and we were like maybe 2 rows behind the family section behind the bench. We were like row like 17 or something like that. And so sometimes she would be sitting there with what was the kid's name? I don't remember, but Dad's son. And sometimes she would like get up and go to the bathroom and like ask us to babysit for a second. I mean, he wasn't gonna go anywhere. Nothing was gonna happen to Thad Young's son. But then we followed each other on Twitter and we would like DM about games and things that were happening. And at that point in time, I mean, I think everyone who was a veteran or affiliated with a veteran on the process Sixers was trying to just get the hell out of there. Yeah. So there was a lot of venting. And I mean, I think being an NBA reporter, at least, I don't know how this works on like people who cover, like one of my best friends from our college radio station back in Northeastern is like on the White House beat at the New York Times. So I don't know if that's how it works with covering Congress and whatnot, but a lot of times you're playing therapist and just venting to people and you're like, yeah, I'm on your side. That is a terrible decision by that coach. He should be playing your guy more, just to kind of keep the conversation going a little bit. But that's how it goes.
Thad Young's wife.
Wow. What else did she tell you?
Thad Young's wife, Jody Meeks' dad.
Yeah.
Jody Meeks' dad. Yeah.
A lot of we've had a lot of parents in the there's obviously Okafor's dad, Lou Williams' mom, like a lot of who was the guy that said that team that Brett Brown was racist? Oh, Kendall Marshall's dad.
Yes. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Muscala's dad. There's been a lot. It's
not Sixers related, but right now Tari Eason's mom is like super active on Twitter, and people are talking about that.
Dangerous.
Yeah. So forgive me for asking you about this, but I'm
happy to talk anything.
Okay. So because this will take people into the insider thing. You had a bad night on draft night.
I did.
and you ended up having a lot of stuff that you said would happen and didn't happen. And
two things. Let's be clear.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, for that night, I think the reason it sticks out is because that's one of those things when people report it, it just seems like it's definitely going to happen, as opposed to so-and-so trade is talking to someone else where you feel like there's some ambiguity there and forget, you know what I'm saying. But on draft night, it just feels like you're getting information passed a minute early. It just feels like it. So
sure.
How does that, obviously it feels terrible, but take us through like your mindset that night. And then B, how does that happen?
Yeah. So the draft is honestly, not to pull back too much of the curtain, it's one of the easiest times to get information because so many people are involved. And if you think about it from like a high school or even like middle school style quiz, like the trade deadline, I like to think of as that game or that whatever you want to call it, where there's column A and column B and you have to draw the matches, but there's like a couple extra in each side. So there isn't like the Timberwolves are shopping for a point guard. There's all these point guards. They're going to get one. You don't know exactly how it's going to fall. The draft is obviously there's slots 1 through 60 and no one knows what's happening before them. So there's agents involved. There's the college coach who's trying to keep his guy drafted as high as possible to keep selling to recruits so that we can get you drafted in the top 10. There's trainers who were working with these dudes for, 3 months of super intensive post-March to June, I guess, whatever the exact month amount is. Like every day I'm helping this guy eat and sleep and live and breathe his dream coming to reality. There's the financial advisors who are in play and like first helping a lot of these families figure out what to do when Adidas gives you a massive check to just wear their sneakers and you don't even have a endorsement deal or a signature shoe, right? So there isn't really, to your point about like the getting stuff out a second before the pick, there's no value in doing that really at all. It's going to come out. Right. The value that I have found for it is like, if you can help teams picking 15, 16, 17, 18 figure out what's happening at 11 through 14, then like you can actually learn more of what's going on. Trade talks that are, sometimes teams are literally on the phone. If you guys remember that Grantland video with the Kings years ago, like Pete D'Alessandro dials up Philly when they're on the clock at 3 before they're picking Joel Embiid. Yeah. One last chance. Like, would you trade him? That like teams are literally on the phone, like hedging whether or not to make a pick because they're waiting to get trade info, that type of stuff. So by tweeting out stuff, but if you get the 5th pick early, all of a sudden teams picking 7, 8, 9 are starting to text you asking what and then that is kind of like an advertisement, I think, from my experience, to the league, to agents, to whoever, that like I'm locked in on what's happening here. So to bring this ramble quickly to answer your question, when Charlotte was on the clock at 6, like I was able, if I didn't tweet it out, I would have been able, just because of that text exchange, I would have been able to fully tell the story afterwards, which I did do. I just had egg on my face in the process. The Hornets wanted TJ and Salwan, and they were trying to get Portland to trade up from 7 to 6, one slot, to get Donovan Clingan and still get and the Hornets would still get their guy and they'd get like a 2nd round pick or whatever out of it. They also knew that Memphis wanted or was interested in trading up for Clingan, and they were trying to use Memphis and Memphis's interest to entice Portland to move up. But Charlotte didn't want to trade down with Memphis because Memphis was 9, and there was a rumor all around the league that the Spurs wanted Salwan at 8 because he's French and Victor Wembanyama, and people fell for that to the point that Charlotte was even scared about trading below 8 and losing their guy who they wanted at 6 anyway. So in that one, I frankly just misread the text. I got a text that was super cool.
Wow.
And like you're texting 100 people. I have my iMessage up on my laptop. There are people who only message me through Snapchat message because it disappears. There are people who only message me on Signal. There are people who message me on WhatsApp. There's so much going on that I just misread the text. It was like, we're talking trade with Memphis. and I just saw like everything's moving so fast.
Yeah.
I just saw we're trading with Memphis. So I tweeted that out. That was on me. The Khalil Ware, Jared McCain part, I got totally screwed over by a very close friend of mine who helped me, and it wasn't intentional at all.
Is it Mike?
It was not Mike.
Okay.
It was someone who. It was someone
I was playing
who.
another alibi. I was playing basketball that night. You remember?
Oh, right.
There you go. There you go. No, it was someone who's in the NBA who like is a quote unquote source, but is someone who I have a very like real personal like been going through a personal changeover this week, and like he called me just to check in on how I'm doing, kind of thing. He helped me get a couple picks earlier, and I had no reason to believe that he was going to be wrong on this one, especially because I had heard so much about Jared McCain going potentially 15 to Miami. And for the Sixers audience, like Philly was hearing that too. And to my knowledge, the Sixers were even like, not that I think they were so open to all kinds of optionality when they were on the clock. And if a great trade materialized, they would have done it. But if they were going to stay, like Jared McCain was definitely someone that they were really high on. So like even the Sixers were telling me earlier in the day, week, whatever, like, oh yeah, like if McCain's not taken by Miami. So when I get the text McCain to Miami confirmed, I had no reason to believe, because that person also was the first person who gave me a couple picks earlier. So it happens. It's fine. And then like I don't know. I feel like I recovered fine. Like I got Orlando picking Tristan da Silva a couple picks later, and then like no one cares about the second round. But not to pat myself on the back, like I dominated the second round. I had like all these trades, and I mean the Thunder like moved into 51 and made like 4 more trades to get up to 40 or 30 something to take, was it Dylan Jones or whoever it was? Mm-hmm. And I like was the only person who had that. Like I was all over the second round, baby. But no one cares because I made myself look like an idiot for a couple
I
minutes.
care about the second round, Jake.
By the way, that's like the part of this job that sucks is that like when you get it right, it becomes public knowledge 5 seconds later. So the information is everybody's. But when you get it wrong, it's only yours.
For sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And like, it's just what it is. And no one, I don't know, like no one's going to remember in a couple of years. I don't think like, I don't want to call him out, but Chris Haynes got the number 2 pick wrong some year. I don't even remember which year it was. It was the Chet Holmgren. Like he just put out Jabari Smith, and that was wrong. I don't think anyone remembers that. Chris probably does. So it's fine.
You just reminded everyone. So
I reminded everyone.
I mean, it's such a relatable like pit in your stomach where you're just like, I just want to, like, I want to undo this so badly. And you're just like scrambling and people are making fun of you and just like, wow.
Yeah.
You just got to get used to it.
Yeah. I had, you go.
No. Well, I've told the story before, but I was back when there used to be regional sites on SB Nation Philly, if you remember.
Yes, of course.
I did some stuff for them and I saw a Phillies Zach Greinke trade that I wrote up. This is 2010. So I'm
this was a fake tweet, right?
This is a fake tweet, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
From a guy I think who turned out to be like a really bad guy, but he was somewhere in the Philly area, Philly local Twitter media people for a while.
Is it Dennis Deitch?
No, it was somebody else. Just internet guy.
Okay.
And I just got fooled by a fake tweet and I posted it, and some like SB Nation higher ups were like G-chatting and be like, "Hey Mike, and I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm undoing it. It's the worst feeling. It's just such a stupid, shitty feeling when you're just like, I'm wrong. I'm publicly wrong.
Yeah, that was the worst part of draft night, was when my editor at Yahoo, who was like my guy, texted me, "Hey man, what are we? You don't get paid to break the tweets or to break the picks. You just got to write about it after." I was like, yeah, I know. And then I explained to him afterwards the same advertisement kind of philosophy. He was like, "Wow, I never thought about it that way. Okay, I get it." So it is what it is. And I will say also, no one in the league, like a couple people made fun of me for it at Summer League, like, haha, Khalil Ware. But everyone in the league that like their opinion matters of my credibility in order to like keep talking to them and trade in this information. Everyone in the NBA ecosystem was like, yeah, the draft night moves fast. That sucks. You got burned. Like, it's not
Yeah, I mean,
has impacted
everyone lives with their L's, right? Like,
Sure.
KOC lives with his Killian Hayes L.
Oh my God.
Like we all like Jimmy Butler will get to the final 7 more times, and and I'll have to eat shit on all of them. Like, we all have L's. Just real quick before we let you go on, is there anything? I know there's a very general question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything about the Sixers situation that we do not know that we should know? Like, I'm not asking for some big scoop, but like, is there any insight that you can provide that we haven't heard? Like a big scoop,
So like the personal reasons that are keeping Joel Embiid out right now are like legitimate. That's really all I have credence to say. Someone called me about that like when it first came out, and I have the reasons. This is like such a like dumb, like I'm evading the answer thing to say, but I think he will be back and not healthy, but like playing through the injury like you guys were talking about before. I think it isn't so new, but I don't even remember whether it was last episode or before I was watching before I came in here, Mike talking about the fact that all the vagueness and the confusion, a lot of it stems from the fact that it's coming from Joel's wanting there to be vagueness and confusion. Like I wrote about that in my first post for the Stein line to plug that.
Yeah.
It's real. And that is I think the ultimate peek behind the curtain about like the feelings that Sixers fans are wrestling with because they don't know. Like the uncertainty is I think the shittiest part about this from the fan experience. Like that does stem from him. The fact that they've been fined multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years for the whatever they've done with the injury report, inconsistencies or not filing it appropriately, whatever it is, like he does for whatever reason want to control that narrative cycle structure, whatever you want to call it, to a point where I think it actually does hurt him with goodwill of the fans, to the point where I made a joke with someone way back in the preseason. I was like, you guys should have just said he had a setback, even though that's not the truth.
It would have been easier. Yeah.
Would have been easier.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, that's not what happened. I said, well, what happened? You're not even communicating that either. So like, if you don't put a carrot out there for people to actually bite onto, you're just going to be like, all the little baby birds in the nest are going to be squawking. Where is Joel? What's happening? And then you're throwing Nick Nurse out there, and Nick Nurse is a great coach, but he's nowhere near as deft as Brett Brown was in taking bullets and being a charming face of the franchise kind of guy.
Yeah. So like that's saying it kindly. Actually, exactly. He is world's worst at that. Yeah,
exactly. So just knowing that he is not that person, and even like you don't have to be that. Tom Thibodeau is a totally different, like successful, I will stand in front of the media and take bullets kind of guy by just like shutting stuff down and be like, no comment, no update, blah, 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 blah. Like the gruffness is kind of charming in its own way. There's always a chuckle through the media room. I don't find it charming, but the people who are there every day, I guess, kind of do. Yeah. So if you know that Nick is not the guy to be jazz handing about, it's going to be okay, then like you're even, I think, doubling down on the bad strategy of all this. So that's my scoopy take. I did have several funny takes I wrote down to contribute if you guys ask me other Sixers things, but I guess we're running out of time.
Rip through them. What do you got?
Yeah, what are your takes? Give them to us.
Number one, every time I log in to watch a Sixers game, it drives me nuts that Allah speaks in passive tense. Third in defensive rating are the Orlando Magic. That pisses me off. Paul George just looks handsome in a Sixers jersey, and also the Sixers are arguably the most attractive team in the NBA.
For like 6 years running. It's bullshit.
Can I say this about that specifically? And I shared this in a group chat I'm in. Kelly Oubre is one of the best looking people I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
When you take his face, which is the 10 out of 10.
Beautiful.
Right? And you marry it to the fact that he is like this, like physique wise, is like fucking long, athletic guy with like this nice smile. It is unfair. He's one of like the 5 most attractive guys I've ever seen in my entire life.
And lefty helps.
Yep, it does.
I remember when the Suns did a whole new The Valley jersey reveal and he was the model for it. I just thought to myself, this is an unfair marketing advantage that comes with having Kelly Oubre on your team. The last thing,
I'm from all like reports, like a lovely teammate, lovely guy.
Yeah.
People,
and
friendly,
like
happy to be
Jared
around.
McCain is way too young for me to be discussing his physicality, but cute young man. Like
Nice young
great
man.
smile.
Yes.
Come
yes.
on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That
The
TikTok's not just because of his dancing.
No.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, I've shown his TikTok to several females in my life and men alike. Everyone thinks he's a very cute, attractive young
That's
boy.
it. That's all you need, man.
Yeah.
The last take is delicious dish. I heard Kate Scott say a couple times. The take is that I don't have the take yet. I don't know how I feel about it. It's no garbage into gold, but I like the alliteration. I like the attempt. We'll see if delicious dish sticks around.
Kate will try things out.
She will try things out.
She'll take him for a spin. See how they feel.
Yeah, I will say that Kate and Ala, not like they haven't been here, specifically Kate. Like Kate hasn't been here long enough to have like, I guess to be here for a season this bad and be able to be honest about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Fransky and LA have been here for forever. And if the Phillies suck, like they're just gonna fucking bury the Phillies and say they suck. And because they have like the cachet locally, it's a tough situation to be doing this in just the worst season in history and have it be, you know, and I get mad at them sometimes. I've said it, like, if you tell me it's early in the season one more fucking time, it's not early, but I understand the position that they're in, you know.
That's like I've couched on so many interviews and on the Bleacher Report live stream stuff I do. You know, you need a 20 game sample size to really evaluate this roster, and then it's like, oh, you need a 25, you need a 30 game sample size.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. I think Philadelphia's just a specific kind of place where it's like, I think a lot of fan bases will be like, let's be optimistic, and here's how we. But on the broadcast, you want a little disgust.
Yeah.
You want a little bit of like this fucking Jesus.
As someone who I have abandoned all my Sixers fandom. It just was bled out of me while covering the process years.
Sure.
I pinpoint the moment. This was another inside LB moment that Mike will probably appreciate more than Spike. But at the 2015 draft, when they took Okafor, Jake Pavorsky, like literally on the ground in Barclays Center, we were both credentialed covering it. Jake Pavorsky was distraught. And I just turned to him and shrugged and said, best player available. Like I was trying to evaluate Sam Hinkie's thought process more so than like reacting to it.
That podcast we did that night was one of the most depressing podcasts we ever did.
Yeah.
Our big fear the entire time leading up to that draft was them not only selecting Okafor, but keeping him.
Yes.
And it was fucking terrible. It was one of the worst process nights we ever had. No offense, Julia.
And the fact I had no emotions in the moment made me realize that it was bled out of me. I was cold. But I still
you don't consider yourself a Sixers fan anymore?
No, I mean, I'm still absolutely for the Birds all day, every day. I'm going December 15th to the Steelers game, figuring out travel logistics with my sister after we hang up from this call. That's like my tap into Philly fandom for sure. And I would be remiss if I didn't shout out my high school fantasy football group chat that still exists largely to talk about the Eagles. And one Moshe Kravitz is in the chat. So we need you to be a little more kind to Moshe on the 94.
Let me tell you, look, you know, there's always a guy in the office that fucking, when there's free food, swarms like he's a fucking fly at a picnic.
Moshe is that guy.
Yes. Oh my God, dude. Quick story about this fucker. Nice kid, whatever. I had an event that night when I went to the Broad Street Love charity event. So, you know, I had to rush over there. So I had to change during a commercial break into a suit. We have a small green room by our studio. I went into the green room. I closed the door. I started changing. Moshe opens the closed door because there's hot dogs in there. Fucking sees me in a shirt and my underwear, says, I'm sorry, proceeds to get the hot dogs anyway.
Oh my God.
Leaves the room and leaves the door open.
That is phenomenal on so many accounts. Yeah. He's definitely like the kid brother of the group. So that makes sense. And also, so last year we both tied for whatever the hell, we tied for last in our league. So we had to do a lemonade stand and dress as lemons and do it at an Eagles tailgate. And he didn't get a lemon costume. I'm wearing a lemon onesie. He found a pickle. And so every time someone came up and bought, we were like trying to make fun of ourselves and have good fun with it. They're like, why are you a pickle? And he couldn't get that right too. So it's okay. I'm with you.
Fuck that guy. All right, Jake. Well, good luck. We'll put a link.
Guys.
The link to subscribe to the Steinline Substack is in the description of this pod, or you can just Google it or go to Jake on whatever social media platform you can find Jake on and find all that. Good luck, man.
Thank you, Jake.
I appreciate you guys taking care of your own. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Of course.
Well, go subscribe to Jake. That seems interesting. I think and I thought Jake handled the draft night thing well. That was interesting, I think, to get that background. And I hope, Joel, whatever personal thing it is okay, actually.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we will talk to you next time. Maybe get another win with a Embiid back on Sunday. Play the Bulls. I don't know. What do you think? It'd be nice. All right. We'll talk to you next time. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah. Like face.